song every Sunday, but I tell you, it opens me up like a can opener every time. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much, Dennis. Well, I want to give you an update about Terry. Unfortunately, this week I did not go, I was not able to go see him. I was in my jammies until Thursday because of the ice and snow and the cold weather. But he has had the tubes taken out of his chest. He's improving, and he has now been moved to IMICU, and that stands for Intermediate Medical Intensive Care Unit, also room number 4. So he's at CHI Memorial on Glenwood, which is the main campus, in IMICU, room number 4, and he's doing well. There's has been some talk about whether he needed heart surgery or not, but from what I understand, the doctors are saying that might not be necessary. So I don't have a total update on that, but Terry is doing well, and please keep up your prayers for him. One other note this morning is that Mona's father has fallen and broken his hip, and he is in the emergency ward right now. Mona's mother and father are living with them, which is a good thing because they do need some care. But unfortunately, her dad fell this morning and broke his hip and is in the emergency ward. So let's just take a few moments now and surround Terry and Mona's dad with our love, with our intentions of seeing them whole and healthy on every level of their being. We surround them right now with that golden white light, God's energy, healing, bringing hope and bringing vitality, surging through every part of their body. And so this morning, as we get together and as we talk about relationships, we just send our love to Terry, to Mona's dad, and to each and every person in our congregation who is not able to make it this morning. From our hearts to all those, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Thanks, Glenn. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing this morning?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Doing good. Doing good. It's great to see so many smiling faces on this frigid morning. Thanks for coming out. It's a little chilly out there, but if you're going to be a bear, be a polar bear, right? Well, my name's Kelly Thompson, and I serve on your board of trustees as vice president. I just wanted to welcome everybody this morning. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that's watching us on Facebook, online. Be sure to smash that like button, drop us a comment, and share us with everybody you know, because you never know who's going to need a good uplifting message, okay? You know, at Unity here, we love our music because of Landis. He's amazing. He's very talented. Thank you for all that you do. Also, Eric and Laura, they make our live stream possible. And to Tony for doing our sound, of course. And to Rev Doug, who's doing his talk on Will Love. I think today is the third message, final message. There's a wrap up. Awesome. Is there anybody new here today? I think we're pretty much all the same old family now. All right, well, we'll move right along. You know, when we do the blessing for the newcomers, we always say the Christ in you. that we behold the Christ in you. And the Christ in you refers to that spark of divinity that we all have as our birthright, as a child of God. Is the very quality of being that Jesus found. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I coming through? Okay, good. That Jesus found and brought forth in himself, and he demonstrated in his ministry. Here at Unity, we believe that there is one power and one presence in the universe, and that is the love and wisdom and the goodness of God. And we are all an expression of that presence in physical form. Unity of Chattanooga is a part of the worldwide unity movement. And we are not guided by a single dogma, but instead we are a progressive spiritual community, blending ancient wisdom and new thought, practical Christianity. We're all about knowing God and the knowing of our good, which is God. We also honor, the diversity of people, no matter who you are or how you show up in the world, because we're all created in the spiritual likeness of God. We also honor all paths to God. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you're welcome here. So now's the time that we get up and greet each other, fist bump, a hug, or wave, or whatever you feel comfortable with.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. Oh, then one day, one magic day, he passed my way, and while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Oh, then one day, one magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
Wow, you did it again. That's perfect. That is the greatest thing. And that's the essence of the message for today. So instead of 20 minutes, let's just take an offering. Oh, to have some food. Wow. Well, for the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about real love, the kind of unconditional love that is without expectations, without demands, without rewards for good behavior, without strings attached. A kind of love that, when it's where we're coming from, creates a healthy environment for loving relationships and a life filled with joy and fulfillment. It's a genuine happiness that has a profound and lasting sense of peace and deeply satisfies and enlarges our soul. It doesn't go away when circumstances get difficult. In fact, it survives and even grows through hardship and struggle. We've been using material from Greg Bear's book, Real Love, written in the early 2000s, and he maintains that with this kind of real love, nothing else matters. And without it, nothing else is enough. He says we all have, as part of the human condition, a deep yearning to feel connected to each other. And real love is unconditionally caring about the happiness of another person, not loving another person because they meet our needs. For most of us, the kind of love we've received and learned as a child or experienced in our culture is not this. It's conditional, based upon others' approval when meeting their expectations or achieving some sort of material or outward goal, experience, or thing that we thought or had been told would bring us happiness. This is what Greg Bear calls imitation love. And it's characterized by seeing others mostly as objects to be manipulated in order to achieve those short-term things that we believed would make us happy or protect us from criticism and perhaps defeat. Now, that perspective is not our fault. And blame is just not appropriate if we're interested in moving forward for a more fulfilling life. It's the culture our parents grew up in and taught us by example, and they did the best they could. And our schools basically focused on reading, writing, arithmetic, and technical schools, or technical skills. And Bear says that many years studying subjects in school that we rarely use, while we were taught nothing at all about relationships, a subject that we're required to deal with every day. Now today, in the working world, to make a living, it's results that count according to established goals and criteria, not your personal happiness. That's up to you. It was this experience of achieving all the successes parents, teachers, and culture said would make them happy and fulfilled, but didn't, that brought Greg to seek a better way. And what this book is all about. And in many ways, what parts of our lives are about today. Now, most of you know I'm a football fan. And we're in the playoffs. 8 remaining teams, all with winning seasons, vying for a chance to win the Super Bowl. But the darker side is that many of those who did not achieve the owners' or CEO's expectations are out of a job. 9 head coaches and several general managers out of the remaining 24 teams, now that's 38%, folks, okay, have been fired, as well as uncountable lesser coaches and players. And even in college football today, with the new NIL and portal changes, many coaches and players are looking for the next bigger opportunity, the better contract or chance to make it to the big time, and are changing schools regularly to achieve it. This is the conditional culture that we live in. It's all about performance, not about loving relationships. Now, to be fair, I suppose that competition and the desire for a better life that's inherent in a democratic society with its focus on material things has created some great benefits that we all share today. But the cost in human happiness is severe. The divorce rate, the alcohol and drug addictions, suicide rate, and general anxiety tells us that something is missing. So how do we find that missing piece? Spelled P-E-A-C-E. Okay. Well, first and foremost, we need to recognize and be able to understand the types of behaviors that can foster conditional approval and why they are used. Greg says that there are 4 varieties: praise, power, pleasure, and safety. We talked a little bit about this last week. Praise is when people tell us how wonderful we are, usually when we meet some expectations that they have, and we feel that connection and that approval that we so desperately want. Power is the ability to make other people do what we want, which can be a kind of approval, can also be an addiction. Or it can be a way to achieve other goals that we feel are important and will bring a sense of satisfaction and happiness. Pleasure is simply a way to distract ourselves from the emptiness and pain that accompanies the lack of real love. Addictions in all their various varieties relieve the pain for a while, neglecting the real issue. Safety is characterized by behavior that keeps from experiencing more pain. We continue to stagnate in unrewarding jobs and relationships with no real love or growth, but at least it's predictable. There's no more pain. Now, these behaviors are not necessarily all bad, only when they're used in a manipulating and contriving way. When 2 people really care about each other's happiness, praise becomes nourishing. We feel the power of real love. a sense of safety for being cared for, and pleasure comes from the activities that we do together. So how do we know the difference when it's contrived or when it's real? It's very simple. When it's contrived and manipulative, Bear calls it the use of getting and protecting behaviors, which consists of lying, attacking, no, not physically, but it's motivated through fear with its underlying emotion of anger, acting like a victim and clinging to another like a parasite to get what you think you need. Now, we've all seen and used these techniques at some time or another in our life, but whenever we control another person, no matter how good we've gotten at it, that person becomes nothing more than an object, and we can't have a relationship with an object. We can't give and receive love freely. That's conditional imitation love, not real love. For any of us who have felt our marriage or a relationship or our job has gone flat or we're unhappy in it, these behaviors on our part and on others' parts are always present. We've been looking for love in all the wrong places. So what's the solution? How do we get out of the trap? How do we change? Well, the answer is that first of all, we have to recognize these behaviors, and then we have to recognize what we really want in life. As I was reading his material and the use of praise, power, pleasure, safety, the pursuit of material things, and these getting and protecting behaviors, I was reminded of Jesus' temptation by the devil as told in the 4th chapter of Matthew. Now the devil promised him worldly power, tempted him with spiritual pride, and offered him the safety and material pleasures of the world if he would only worship him. Well, we all know the story. Jesus refused, simply saying, "Worship the Lord your God and seek first the kingdom of heaven." And it was only after that, only after he saw through the conditional imitation aspects that the fellow in the red suit was offering, that his earthly mission of real love began. The next chapter, Matthew chapter 5, begins with calling his disciples and the Sermon on the Mount. And there has never been a greater demonstration of the power of real love. It's our choice of who and what we serve. We have to be able to see through the approvals of the world and material things. And we have to want a deeper, more fulfilling love. We have to be willing to change. Bear says that whenever we're unhappy in a relationship, don't blame your partner. But start working on yourself. You need to focus your attention entirely on what you can do to become more loved and more loving. Because that's what will make the greatest difference in your relationships and in your happiness. Not what you do to change your partner. You can only change yourself, not anybody else. So where does all this begin? It begins with faith. Bear says, faith is the act of consciously choosing to experience something we don't know. I call it having the courage of your convictions. Being willing to step forward with vulnerability, believing that change is possible, and acting that way. Believing that we can, in fact, find real love. Would you like me to do something with that?
Oh, well, actually, sorry. We just got
You
a
want to put it up here?
complaint from the...
Oh, okay.
Live reaction to your
Yeah.
Or Margaret. Margaret couldn't hear very well.
Well, Margaret, I hope you can hear right now. And everybody else that's out there. We want to make sure that we do it right. So we talked about faith, believing that we can and find real love, and our behavior. You know, having faith is something internal, but our behavior starts with telling the truth about ourselves. Here's what Bear says. Only when we set aside our getting and protecting behaviors and tell the truth about ourselves can we create an opportunity for others to see us as we really are. And here's what makes so much sense. Only when we are seen for who we really are, warts and all, can we feel genuinely accepted and believe that other people truly care about our happiness. And that is the definition of real love. It's a simple but powerful process. Tell the truth about ourselves, be seen as we truly are, be accepted as that, and be loved. Only when we take the bags off our heads, take away those things, when we tell the truth about ourselves, especially our mistakes and flaws, can we feel unconditionally accepted and loved. The effect of real love is miraculous, even when we feel accepted and loved for only short periods of time. We gradually lose our need for these self-destructive getting and protecting behaviors. Once we've tasted the real thing, imitation love no longer has the same power to seduce and distract us, and we're finally able to share the love we have with others and participate in loving relationships. In a nutshell, when you tell the truth about yourself, you create the opportunity to find someone who will unconditionally accept you. And being accepted as who you are is the beginning of real love. Now that approach may sound a little scary, especially in a world where vulnerability and weakness are considered interchangeable and intolerable. So how do we do it? Well, here's a story from his counseling practice. Carolyn had been asking Daniel for 3 weeks to fix the dripping shower head in the bathroom, and she was irritated when she brought it up again. That shower head is still dripping, you know. Our water bill is going to go up. Anybody been there, done that? Okay. Well, Daniel immediately thought of the usual excuses. I've been busy. I've been kept late at work. I haven't had a chance to work on it. But he'd read the book. And then he decided to exercise a little faith and tell the truth about himself. So he took a deep breath and he said, I hate to admit it, but I've been putting that job off. Partly it's a lot of work, but mostly I put it off because I feel stupid. Nobody ever showed me how to do this kind of stuff, so I usually get in there and I make lots of mistakes and I feel dumb. I end up making lots of trips to the hardware store and ask the clerks a bunch of stupid questions. So the truth is that I've had the time to do the job, but I've just simply been lazy, feeling stupid, and put it off. Now that may not make much sense to you, Caroline, but there it is. What do you think she did? Carolyn lost her anger immediately. She walked over to her husband, hugged him, and they had a wonderful moment of mutual acceptance. And yes, Daniel began to work on the leaky shower head. Bear concludes from this story, you know, we make little mistakes all the time. And then because we're afraid people won't accept us with them, we hide them in some way. We minimize our mistakes. We shift the responsibility of them to other people. or outright lie about them. We've been doing this for so long that we often don't realize that we're doing it. You don't need to tell the truth about all of your mistakes to everyone. That would be unwise. But you can't begin to experience the rewards of telling the truth about your mistakes until you actually begin to do it. And it's well worth it. Now, once again, that approach may sound a little scary or a little too brief to be of any real help, especially to us guys who never express our emotions, right? If it's something altogether new to you, you might want more information or practice before you start with your long-term relationship. The important thing is to begin to feel, begin to talk about, and experience a way of feeling safe and authentic in whatever you're saying and doing, without the baggage of judgment or expectations hanging, or an argument hanging over your head. A couple of suggestions. Men's groups and women's groups are often a time of sharing your experiences and emotions in a supporting environment. The rules are usually very simple. When the speaker is speaking, others listen without trying to preach, fix, or follow up with their own story. It's a time to be vulnerable without judgment. Now, one word of caution, make sure it's not a pity party. If someone says, "Oh, you poor thing, let me tell you how to fix that," you're in the wrong group. The idea is to empower people by allowing them to share their mistakes, to share their fears and areas of concern, not enable them with victim support. And of course, what's said in the meeting stays in the meeting. If the town gossip is in that group, you're in the wrong group. 12-step groups can be equally effective. If those groups are not available, once you understand the concepts of conditional limitation love and the getting and protecting behaviors associated with it, find a friend who does not have these behaviors, who has healthy relationships and is willing to listen and offer support. Now, such a friend or acquaintance is rare, and that friendship is to be cherished. And as I've mentioned many, many times in my talks, be careful who your friends are and who you hang around with, because their ideas and behaviors may just become your ideas and behaviors. Another idea is to volunteer in an activity that you like with like-minded people and without any vested interest in the control or outcome of the project. Now, most of you know I was born and raised in the Northeast, and when I finally came down here, I heard a phrase that I still laugh about. And at one point, we were in a meeting, and one of the guys chimed in. He says, "You know, Doug, I just don't have a dog in the hunt." That's what you're looking for. The idea here is to work and share from a place of active concern for the work being done, but with no strings or judgments attached. It's a way to begin dropping those getting and protecting behaviors that can be so destructive to long-term relationships. Now, if we are unhappy with what's going on in our relationship, we have what amounts to 4 basic choices. We can, number 1, change our partner. Number 2, live with the behavior and like it. Number 3, live with the behavior and hate it. Or number 4, leave. Okay? Change our partner, live with the behavior and like it, live with the behavior and hate it, or leave. Now, I've done a fair amount of pre-marriage counseling And one of the questions I always ask both parties is what they like about their future spouse and what habits their future partner has that they would like to change. When he says, I don't ever want her to change, I say, tell me about that, because she will change. If kids come along, priorities are going to change. And the amount of time you spend together now and the activities that you share will change. What is it about her that is beyond change? What happens if she does change? When she says, oh, I'll change that part in him, I say, tell me about that. Because that part is really about your expectations and desires. You can't change another person, only yourself. What if he doesn't change? And if he does, it's most likely through your manipulation and control, which is conditional love. And I go on to explain a little bit about conditional and unconditional love and the consequences that may result. Unfortunately, most couples brush off those deeper questions, and I've seen many of those very happy couples on their wedding day separated or divorced a few years later. Which means really, we only have three choices. Live with the behavior and like it, live with the behavior and hate it, or leave. Many of us have had pets, and we love Fido or Fluffy unconditionally as a member of the family, despite perhaps a few objectionable habits that they might have. Well, we saw them as they really were, bad habits and all, and loved them anyway. That's the definition of real love. Unfortunately, with people, we've all been trained from childhood with conditional imitation love, and it's the best that we know. Instead of choosing to accept and love our partners as they are, we want to make them in the image and likeness of what we want. And that's doomed from the start. Instead, we can choose to see them as they are, love them for who they are and the richness that they bring to our life, and simply know that there are other parts of them that perhaps can be overlooked. Greg Bear says this: as we begin to feel unconditionally loved ourselves, in other words, as we begin our own work on ourselves and begin to feel the effects, we begin to see people without the blinding effects of emptiness and fear. In other words, our own mental template or canvas of likes and dislikes, rights and wrongs, that of course they must fit in with, right? And then all human beings, he says, become beautiful to us and easy to accept just as they are. Now, right now, that might sound unrealistic to you, but it really happens that way. One of the ways to do this, to live with behavior and like it, one of the ways to do this is the concept of gratitude. Gratitude, Bear says, is simply a decision we make to recognize what we already have. And that decision greatly magnifies the effect of the love and happiness in our lives. It's not a trick of positive thinking. Gratitude is a choice that we make which amplifies our enjoyment of everything in our environment. Now, when I talk about gratitude, I hope some of this starts to sound familiar. When we look at this source, we look at that source, we look at the Bible, after a while, it all begins to say pretty much the same thing. What we consistently say in unity is that gratitude and appreciation are the two highest thought vibrations that we can have. What we know through the laws of mind action and attraction is that how we perceive and how we feel about a situation will draw to us circumstances, situations, and people that match or vibrationally align with it. Change your thinking, change your life. It begins with faith. It begins with telling the truth about ourselves and being grateful for what we have. The third choice, live with it and hate it, is an always angry self-destruction. Unfortunately, we know too many people who've chosen this route. Bear makes this comment. Many of us have tried to change our partners so many times that we finally become frustrated and just quit trying. We stay in the relationship, but we continue to wish that our partner was different, and we resent him or her when he or she isn't different. In effect, we choose to stay in a relationship where unhappiness is the only possibility. We choose to be miserable. Obviously, this solution is a poor choice. In fact, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. What we have to remember is that anger is always a choice on our part, not something other people make us feel. When we understand that, we can begin to choose differently. The final choice, leaving, is not to be taken lightly, but there are two ways to do it. When we leave a relationship and blame our unhappiness on our partner, that it's their fault, we've most likely missed the point of what this life lesson of real love is all about. The real cause of our misery is most likely the long-standing lack of real love in our own life and our inability to express love in our partner's presence unconditionally. After all, there was something there in the beginning that was very, very attractive. But sometimes leaving a relationship is the best thing to do. Aside from outright abuse, while we're learning to be truthful about ourselves and feel love, we may become so confused and disoriented or threatened in the presence of a particular person that we automatically revert to our old behaviors. We can't seem to get out of them. Sometimes people just grow apart. When that happens, it's best to part ways in as loving a way as possible. I'm reminded of Paul Simon's song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Step out the back, Jack. Make a new plan, Stan. Drop off the key, Lee. Just set yourself free. The last point that I want to make this morning is that these changes take time. It's going to be a little bit here, a little bit there. Ever so slowly, but with conscious intention, our barriers will come down. We'll begin to see ourselves and we'll begin to see others differently. And our relationships will change very much for the better. Before going to ministerial school, most of you know I had a 30-year career working for large manufacturing companies. The last 15 as a plant manager in charge of the operation. And as you might imagine, there was a lot of conditional love out there and a lot of performance pressure on the job. And I had a rather get it done, impatient, and sometimes critical persona. As a matter of fact, one of my fellow plant managers looked at me one day and said, "Doug, you're the most competitive SOB I've ever known." I didn't feel that way, but apparently it leaked out the edges that way. At home, if Penny or Christine messed something up or made a mistake, my displeasure, disappointment, or perhaps muted anger was often felt by them. Don't tell your father. Well, I left that and went to ministerial school. And what I can tell you is the first time I went through that, there's 2 arches. First time I went through that arch, the feeling was unbelievable. You could just feel a peaceful, loving presence. And that's where I stayed for 2 years. It was a very loving place, filled with people from all walks of life, following their spiritual dreams and doing their very loving best for themselves and others, which was quite a change from my former job. Well, on my very first visit back home from school, which was after about 4 months, in other words, I'd been on campus for about 4 months, and then Christmas came and we were off on vacation for about 4 weeks. So I came home. And at one point, Penny and I were loading the car to go somewhere, and she dropped something that spilled all over the garage floor, and I noticed it, and without saying anything, I came over, stooped over, and began picking it up and helping her put it back in the car. And as I stood up, she looked at me with owl eyes and said, "You've changed." That's what happens when you start working on yourself and surround yourself with others who are doing the same. I didn't see it, but everybody else did. It was a start. So let's take a moment this morning and just begin to think about, where do we start? Take a deep breath. As we think about all these things, all of our relationships, the people we love and cherish, bad habits and all, there is a growing anticipation, a growing awareness that there is a greater love yet to be experienced. Some may call it God. But how do we get there? The way we get there is by seeing the light and the love, the presence of God, not only in ourselves, but we see it in others. When we think we are right and the other is wrong, it's a barrier to love. When we insist on our own way, it's a barrier. Let that go. When we see Fido or Fluffy coming towards us at the end of the day, wagging the tail or purring or whatever they do, filled with unconditional love, we feel that presence in our hearts and in our lives, and wish it could be with all our relationships. Well, it can. So we start today, right here and right now, to simply know that those relationships are possible. We have the faith, the conviction that that's possible. And so we say to ourselves, no more lying, take a deep breath when I feel vulnerable and afraid. Perhaps share those feelings. And as I do, there will be a resonance. There will be a love and honesty that flows back from others. Where do I start? I start right where we are, right where I am, right here and right now. Take a deep breath. I know I'm surrounded by God's love. Now I just have to let that flow through me, unabated. Thank you, God. Thank you, partners and friends who serve as mirrors. Thank you, God. Amen.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? You fill my heart with gladness, find ways to make things better. Fill my heart with gladness, that's what we do.
I'm just gonna go over here and meditate for a minute.
Generally,
You are precious. You are special.
By the way, I love that song you did, right after the meditation. That was beautiful. I mean, it just fits so perfectly. Yeah, every one of us has a brain lapse every now and then. Well, now is the time to just open our hearts and give from our abundance. And we know that our gifts, our tithes, and our offerings go forward to not only bless this ministry, but bless each and every one of us. So let's join together with our offering statement. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, and I receive in abundance. While the ushers are taking the offering, I often talk about meditation, and imagine if you take that offering statement and repeat it to yourself in the quietness of your room, over and over and over and over again. That's what I did when I first started the meditation practice. And as you can imagine, after about 10 or 15 minutes, just sitting by myself, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I didn't raise 6, 8, 10 inches off the bed, but I can tell you that it made a change. Something shifted. I would encourage each one of you to try something like that. What I did, we had bulletins at the time in our church. I just took the bulletin home and read it and read it and read it. And I say it and say it and say it right now in my own meditations. Enough. Let's give thanks for these tithes and these offerings, so freely given from hearts filled and overflowing with abundance. Hearts filled with love going forward in our families, our friends, the places that we work for, in this city, this town, and of course, this country. Thank you, God. So it is. And now, Kelly, you're up.
All right, now I'm back. And I've lost my place. Thank you, Rev Doug. That was awesome. I really appreciate that series. That was, I kind of feel like you were just talking to me with some of that. That was great. So just a couple of announcements. On Tuesday of this week at 6:30 downstairs in one of the classrooms downstairs, Amanda Adamson will be leading the metaphysical discussion group. The topic this time will be, why are we here? So that will be very interesting. I hope you join us for that. Next week, we also have a special treat for our weekly service. Amanda Adamson will be giving the talk. She's your board president, and we hope that you will come and support her. She's going to do a fantastic job, so make sure you don't miss that. Next week will also be Potluck Sunday, so bring a dish to share. The following week, on February 3rd, we are bringing in a dynamic guest speaker. May McCarthy will be here. So make sure you join us for that. Also at 1 p.m. she'll be giving a workshop to present a variety of practical spiritual techniques to achieve your desires and goals. If you pre-register, the cost is $20, or the cost will be $25 at the door. Remember that Saturday, February 3rd, be sure to invite any friends and family who might be interested in learning how to live their best life ever. We also want you to mark your calendars for our upcoming annual meeting, which is always the third week in February. There are currently, is it 1 or 2 spots? We would just have 1 spot, that's me, 2 spots vacant on our board. So this is your chance to share your wisdom and help design the future of Unity. If you're a member and you're interested in serving, please see Amanda or Doug after the service today. And as we end our service, we invite you to stay and join us for some fellowship and some food in the back and some warmth. You guys have a great week. Let's stand and sing the peace song. Those brain lenses.
Of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And as you go forward this week, just remember, it's all love, it's all God.